Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for Central Georgia Focus. This is the Ask Mayor Miller edition. Since the mayor took office, the Center for Collaborative Journalism has been sitting down with him and asking him your questions. I'm your host for today, the Civic Journalism Senior Fellow at the Center for Collaborative Journalism, Liz Fabian. Once again, we want to thank Mayor Miller for joining us today. Know you've had a lot of stuff going on since we last sat down to speak to you, and recently you hosted an update on the Macon Violence Prevention program. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you think that program is progressing?
Sure. So first of all, I believe that the MVP program is going on way ahead of schedule. I know some people want to see instant results. They look at last year in 2021, compare it with 2022, and they may not see the results they're looking for. It's also important to realize that this program just got implemented this year. Around February and March, we started funding that. So if you look at the second quarter of this year and compare that with the third quarter, as we did during that presentation, you'll see some dramatic decreases in certain elements of crime. So we're very excited about it. It's a long-term process that we're looking at for violence prevention, but I think we've had a lot of early success that we're going to build upon. So I'm very excited about it. We saw several programs that we have instilled see instant results. The hotels, the motels, the Vice Marts getting closed down. We were able to get some data on that to show that the number of shots fired around those locations have decreased almost 90% in some areas. So certainly some good information, and we've had a lot of good operations by the sheriff-led approach through the focused deterrence in the last quarter, and we're starting to see some early signs of success.
Of course, we've heard about some of the programs that involve after school for youth and trying to groom them in a way for conflict resolution and that kind of thing. But there's also the violence interrupters that actually are going out on the streets. Can you share us a little bit more about how that is working and what they're doing in some of these high-crime neighborhoods?
Sure. This model is part of what we call a cure violence model. Been very successful across the United States, and certainly other communities have used them to success. Recently, I can think of Columbus, Georgia, which were able to dramatically decrease the amount of homicides they had in their area. But the violence prevention, as far as the cure violence and the interrupters, they're directly on the streets. These are people who are in the community that know the community. They're assigned to a certain part of the community, so when the incident happens, maybe a conflict arises, they get boots on the ground. They may go there and have a food drive. They may go there and talk directly to gang members. They may talk to different groups of people that they know may get involved in violence against each other, and sit down and discuss with them, tell them how best to resolve that situation, that conflict, other than resulting to violence. So far, it's been very successful. They continue to build on that success, mainly in the Pleasant Hill area. I'm sure we'll expand that program after we get a year's worth of data. But it's been very instrumental in working along with other things like the shot spotter, the focused deterrence, the mentorships, and all the good things we have going on in that area to show that as a collaborative effort, things are starting to improve in those areas.
I know Reverend Dominique Johnson is the one that's really doing the effort there in Pleasant Hill. Do you have plans to kind of expand that to some of the other areas?
I think we're in discussion right now about expanding that. It's important when you target certain areas that you have people on board from those communities. One of the areas we looked at, quite honestly, is the Houston Avenue area, which we have a lot of things going on. But I'm excited to announce that the Houston Avenue area has the number of shots fired and the crimes committed in that area, particularly since we were able to shut down the Friends Mart directly across Pendleton Homes, and the new projects we have coming at Cliffview there and some building programs there, that area has started to get the attention that it needs. But we're looking for people in that area that are people that have been, maybe people have been incarcerated before, that are back out now doing the right things in local community and faith-based leaders in that area that could really make an impact. So I think we're looking to expand that program. Also, we're looking at Unionville area. I think those are some areas that we can find some local people that are willing to step up, just as the other group has, and then we can put some funds in there, maybe from the American Rescue Plan money.
And you also had a commission meeting almost directly after that presentation, and there were a few public comments again about slow response times when it comes to even someone had mentioned that they called 20 minutes before a shooting, and of course the officers arrived after the shooting. So what is being done to increase response and to beef up the staff?
Well, there's a lot of things that's been done. Number one, the sheriff took back over the 911, which is going to fast track the process somewhat. Other things have been done, investing in technology that we're going to have. The shot spotter has increased the response time, because a lot of times people may think the police haven't shown up because they haven't come to their house. But now that we know where the shots are being fired at, they're going to those locations. So people may assume that perhaps the police didn't come and show up at their area, but they actually are working the scene. Recently, we announced several programs to increase the police. The fire department is now going to be doing some security for special events and at the courthouse, which provides more officers. The sheriff revealed the information that we knew for the last couple of years. Since January 2021, we've hired about 150 new corrections and officers, both part-time and full-time. That part-time has been very successful. We're going to duplicate that now by hiring patrol officers that we can fast-track directly to the streets and bypass the jail, working at the jail. So we've got a lot of things that are working. It's going to take a while to build this process, but I'm excited about that, as well as our incentive program that has maintained the officers that we were used to lose. Now we're losing fewer officers over a long period of time, so I think everything's starting to work together well.
And you mentioned the firefighters. How does the third shift that you implemented recently, how does that affect their ability to moonlight and possibly work like on some of, like you said, the non-sworn duties of the sheriff's office?
Well, it works perfectly. This is something that we talked to the chief about a year ago when we started implementing the thought about going to a third shift. It allows for consecutive days that the firefighter would normally be off after having worked a long shift, and it gives them more availability of time to work on a consistent basis at the courthouse and other events. This is not new to Macon. It's something that was happening pre-consolidation. So we're kind of getting back to our roots of some things that worked before consolidation and looking at best practices. So I think this is going to give us another area of workforce that we haven't focused on. And now that we're in a financial good situation with our community, we're able to do that, when before there was some financial restraints on that.
And I guess if you're using off-duty firefighters, they've already been vetted, you have a history with them, there's less kind of ambiguity about whether they're going to be good citizens or good employees, right?
Yes, they're certainly fast track. They don't need to have criminal background checks, drug checks. Most of them already have most of the training. They're also EMS certified, so that can be helpful for a lot of things. They're already in our system. You don't have to go through HR to do all that. So it's certainly fast tracked the system by about 90 days. So we're very excited about getting those men and women employed as soon as possible. And we're dealing with a few issues about how, what uniforms they're going to wear and things like that, but those are minor details compared to the whole scheme.
Also, since our last visit, we had the opportunity to learn about some East Macon development that is on the table. When we come back, Mayor Miller will update us on the project. The county has already agreed to purchase up the land at the old Bibb Mill site, and we'll learn about what's coming next. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Central Georgia Focus, the Ask Mayor Miller edition. I'm your host, Liz Fabian. We have Mayor Lester Miller with us today, and we have a lot to talk about when it comes to development. Since we last sat down, Mayor Miller, you had announced plans for the county to buy up $14 million worth of land in between Coliseum Drive and Interstate 16 with the hopes of luring a major private developer to come in and build restaurant, housing, office space. So tell us, how has that been received, and what are the next steps that you can tell us?
Well, I think personally it's been received very well. The people that kind of realize and watch what goes on in Macon, they're very excited about it. You're always going to have some naysayers who only look at the price tag, but I'll be honest with you, the price tag for that is well below the market value. The property's been sitting blighted for quite a while. 4 mayors have tried to get this property, and things have fallen through. We're very excited about it. Since we announced this project, our phone's been ringing off the hook. Developers, residential, restaurants, medical offices. It's a wide variety. We're getting ready to close the final deal on that in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks. So we'll finish our due diligence like we're supposed to do, and then we'll start looking for a developer. I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities out there from all across the southeast United States. People are contacting us wanting to open up a hotel there, certainly want to tie into the convention center, but most importantly, they realize that there's a great possibility for a national park there, and we'll increase our visitors there to that location from about 150,000 a year up to upwards of 1.3 million visitors. So who wouldn't want to be a part of that? We also can use some good workforce housing and housing in Macon in general, and I think people are excited about that possibility. So we just can't wait for it to get off and get on ground. Yeah, the whole project is going to take a couple of years, and we may phase it in, but to me, the most important aspect about that is it's in a TAD, tax allocation district, which all the funds generated for the upward tax base there must be used for infrastructure and other things in the East Macon neighborhood that greatly needs it. So I'm very excited about that, and we have great things on the horizon on that side of the river.
Just kind of daydreaming a little bit, what do you think that TAD money could be used for? I mean, you have some ideas, you know, I know it's way down the road, but.
Well, we'll let the people decide that, but right now it could be used for some infrastructure, for some better roads and connections there, eliminating some of the blight and rebuilding some homes in that area, make sure that we have the best water and sewer in that area. A lot of things can go on there, mainly building roads to start with, because you must have good quality roads when you do developments like this. But that TAD is pretty big. It goes to a lot of parts of East Macon, and we have a couple more developments that we spoke to people about over there residential-wise, so there's a lot more coming. The good thing about these kind of projects, they serve as a gateway to other things. So when people start seeing a lot of activity, they tend to jump on board. So we're very excited not only about our project, but what's going to be the offspring of that on both sides of the interstate.
And of course, you mentioned the possibility of the national park. What's your gut feeling about this potentially lame duck session of Congress after the election? Do you think that it's going to happen this year?
Well, we're certainly hopeful. We have all of our senators and Congress folks and our local and state officials are all on one accord. Once you have a community like ours with such a huge asset and you have all the leaders getting on the same page, we had the Secretary of Interior come down from Washington, Native American woman herself who's very excited about the project. I think that was a huge impact for her. So I'm very excited it's going to happen this term, and we're certainly getting prepared for it.
And of course, there's already plans too for the park there at the Mill Hill East Macon Arts Village, there where the old Bibb Mill Auditorium was. There's going to be, I think, about $1 million pumped into it in conjunction with the bicentennial, right?
There's certainly some plans there for the bicentennial park right there at Mill Hill. That's a beautiful property right there. We'll complement this development. We're coming up on our 200-year anniversary, and that group has worked very well together. They're putting together some very aggressive plans for that area, and it's something that we can memorialize our relationship that we have from Indigenous from the very beginning until now. Make sure that we have a complete inclusive buy-in from all the community. So I'm looking forward to what that's going to bring over the next year, and I'm excited to get things started. We're going to have a sneaker ball. The mayor's sneaker ball is going to be in December, so we're looking forward to kind of using that as a first of my kind to bring everyone together and really get a lot of excitement moving into next year.
You may need to explain sneaker ball, because people ask me, what's a sneaker ball?
Well, I think most younger folks know what sneaker ball is, and that would exclude me. But, but basically, sneaker ball is getting kind of popular these days. You can wear your tuxedo, your dress, your evening gown. At the same time, you can wear your best Nikes, Reeboks, whatever you want to call it. So it's kind of, I'd rather dance in sneakers than to dance in hard shoes any day. And I certainly, most women I know would rather dance in sneakers than have to have high heel shoes on. So I'm very excited about it. But it's also, it's a way for our community to come together and show the strength in our diversity. So I'm very excited about it.
We have a question from Dawn Cottrell, who says she's very excited to hear about you moving the government offices to the Macon Mall and reopening the closed West Library branch. She wants to know what's the timeline for the work, and when do you think those offices and the library will open?
Well, we have a lot of great things going on at the mall, and the timeline is, right now we've done all the plans. We've had our local architect draft and design all the plans. We're sending that out for a bid to get pricing on there now. We expect to move Board of Elections and other offices in there by next summer, and I think everything else will happen between the summer and the fall of next year. Planning and Zoning, Middle Georgia Regional Commission, Board of Elections, the library, maybe expand the Sheriff's Department within there, and of course we have the world's largest pickleball courts coming there at the Belts location. And we've had a couple more retailers that we're in negotiations with now also coming as far as the retail is concerned. So I think things are going to look very great, a lot different probably this time next year. In the amphitheater, you'll start seeing the beams go up around February or March, and right now that project's still well on schedule.
Well, Ms. Velma Fagan wants to know, when will the county begin restoration work in Southwest Macon? She says there's still blighted houses, bad streets, few shopping centers and banking institutions in that area around Anthony Road, Pionono, Eisenhower Parkway, and Mercer University.
We have a strategic plan for every part of Macon-Bibb County. Believe it or not, that Anthony Road area is kind of tied into the Macon Mall and that corridor. All that's tied in together. So we have been, we just removed over 300 houses. I think we'll have 400 by the end of the year. We'll be announcing some revolving loan funds coming up soon to fill in those gaps, to have some building. Around the Anthony Road area, you've got several projects coming with GDOT that's going to improve those roads. And recently the commission got together and decided that we are not paving and refurbishing the roads as quickly as we would like to. So we're coming up with a new process and plan whereby we're going to spend about 5 times as much money to repave roads. So you're going to see a drastic improvement in that. We're not only going to use our state funds that we have, but we're putting our county funds in there as well. So used to we put about $700,000 as part of a match for our LMIG, which is about $2.5 million. And now we're going to put 3.5 of our own money in there, local funds, to make sure that we pave almost 5 times as much as we normally pave. So I think a lot of good improvements are coming all across our community and not just in any particular area.
And just in case, LMIG is Local Maintenance and Improvement Grant.
That's correct.
Just in case. All right, well, when we come back, we'll look down the road to see what's on the horizon for Macon. So stay tuned. Thank you again for staying with us today for this edition of Central Georgia Focus, Ask Mayor Miller, where we have Macon-Bibb County Mayor Lester Miller joining us. You know, it's been about 2 years already. You're at the halfway mark almost in your administration. So one of the first things you tackled even before getting into office was the homeless issue, and the Brookdale Warming Center became the permanent Brookdale Resource Center. So what is next on the horizon? I know you just recently convened a meeting to kind of look at new approaches to homelessness.
Right, we know that it's not a one-size-fits-all model, and I think attacking this very important issue is something that's near and dear to my heart. The Brookdale Resource Center has been amazing. It's only going to solve one part of our issues. We're looking for long-term solutions that are most chronically affected. We realize also that a lot of most all the homeless that we have in Macon are people who are suffering from some type of disability. Those disabilities lead them down a pathway where they become homeless, and they start using things like drugs and alcohol and other vices, and it can be a very trying situation. So we're looking for a way to do it as a collaborative effort with all of our organizations, our stakeholders. Through our relationship with United Way, we've hired a group that's going to come in and bring all this together for us, rethinking homelessness. They've been very, very instrumental in making sure that communities turn the corner. We are very excited about the very near possibilities that we can have where we can eliminate a lot of those most chronic cases. Once we take care of the most chronically affected homeless in our community, I think we have all the assets and the tools necessary and the people to take care of the remaining. So we're very excited about this first step. There's going to be a lot more talk about that in the next couple of months as we have community focus groups that are going to come together, as well as our organizations and our faith-based groups.
And I know you've had a couple of times of clearing out camps, like off of Spring Street, and now there's a bunch of tents underneath the I-16 off-ramp there, the new bridge. So any immediate plans for that? Or?
Well, I don't think there's any tents under there now. I think that we've been very successful in reaching out to those folks. We had to have a couple of removals. It's one thing that you'll learn, especially through this process of rethinking homelessness, is you must claim your public spaces. You must make sure that you maintain that. Otherwise, you will become an attraction if you just allow things to happen like that. Certainly, we need economic development. Those things affect economic development, and we can't have good jobs and good quality of life and allow people to take over our public spaces, because that decreases the amount of money that you have to spend on these various services we're trying to provide. So on a few occasions, we have to do removals and outreach to these groups of folks, because really the safety conditions there, the conditions there from a health and safety perspective is just not there. It's not a place that anyone needs to live, and we've been very instrumental about that. We always make sure that we put passion first. You can have both compassion and common sense, and that's kind of what we're doing here. We're going to be very compassionate to help folks out, to meet them where they're at and to get them off the streets. At the same time, we must use common sense to know these are public spaces. These mean a lot to everyone and not just one group of people, and we can't just let those things happen. It all ties together with safety as well. A lot of these folks get in these situations around the bridge, the river, the railroad tracks, and they get hit by cars, and they get hurt, and they hurt other people on some occasions. So we're doing everything we can to take a very holistic approach to solve this problem, and it's going to come together very nicely. And I'm very excited about all the partners willing to put aside their silos and their egos and come together for the common good.
And you use some American Rescue Plan funds with the Brookdale renovation and stuff. You recently traveled to Harvard University to speak about what you have done with American Rescue Plan money. Can you tell us a little bit about that presentation and why you were chosen to go?
Sure. It was my honor to go to Harvard on behalf of Macon-Bibb County to speak. More importantly, it's about how we utilize our American Rescue Plan funds. We were one of the first cities in the whole entire United States that used our funding within a short period of time. We put it together within 30 to 60 days. We got together with good quality organizations like the Knight Foundation, and they matched funds. So we're able to leverage those funds to get housing already. We already have housing going up. But number one, we took a couple of $1 million and we doubled that for $4 million with organizations like that. We did the same thing through other organizations like Habitat. So they thought it was very unique that while other counties are still sitting on their funds across the United States not knowing what to do, that we got it directly out to the people and we targeted that need based on the data that we have. Most importantly, we were able to explain how we leverage those funds. We received about $37 million. We can leverage those funds to get about $55 to $60 million worth of value by matching those funds with other organizations and other funds available.
Well, we have a very news-conscious viewer who has a question about the county's public access channel 14. He says your award-winning public affairs staff posts live demolitions of the blighted houses, but thinks that it's being underutilized. So do you have any plans to update the content on the channel and use it more widely as opposed to just Facebook and social media?
Well, certainly that's been a topic of conversation for a while. The viewer will be happy to know that a couple of months ago we were able to get the commission to approve some capital improvements, and that include our communications department, that we can upgrade all the technology needed to make that resource and that asset there more readily usable. So I know Chris Ford and his department are excited about taking that to the next level. I'm not sure if it's going to be a full-time or part-time, but it certainly gives another tool in the tool belt. But without using those funds, without the commission appropriating that, we wouldn't be able to accomplish that. So, you know, Facebook Live and the other things we have, we're very open and transparent. We have the hub that goes out every week. Not everyone can receive that Channel 14 in Macon-Bibb County, especially with all the satellites that you have available. I wouldn't be able to see it out in Isella, of course. So I think you have some limitations there where most everyone has the internet or access to that. But we're going to look at all kind of ways to be able to get the word out to people. So we're excited what may come out of the 14.
As we mentioned, you're almost at the halfway mark. So do you have plans to run for re-election or anything else you're thinking about maybe in a second term or the second 2 years of your term?
Well, certainly we want to finish what we started this term. You're never guaranteed a second term, and right now I haven't made any formal plans about announcing it. As long as the people want me to continue to lead the efforts that we have and we have good success, I'm certainly want to finish the projects I've started. We're coming up on 400 blight at the end of this year. That's something that we've tackled. We've had our best year ever economic development, creating jobs. We're excited about that. With the new East Bank project, the new Cliffview project, the new mall project that we've got going on for all parts of our community, you know, I like to see some of these roads get finished in a better way. So we have a lot to do yet. I'm excited about the team that we put together to work on that. So we'll see what happens in the next few months.
And we're going to see Macon on CBS News this morning, aren't we?
Oh, definitely. I had the distinct pleasure of being in the right place at the right time and meeting Nate Burleson, who is a first-class guy. Certainly, I've always watched him with football and the CBS morning show. But, you know, he did this, you know, 3 meals in a day. He went to Savannah, came to Macon, and go to Atlanta, and, you know, happened to get a couple of minutes of a good interview to promote some things in Macon-Bibb County. You know, a lot about politics, but I hope he focuses more on the people that were there at the restaurants, the average folk that may not be in politics, but certainly we hope we get a shout out from Macon and myself on there.
All right, remember, send your questions to Ask Mayor Miller at mercerccj@gmail.com, and the next time we sit down, we can get you some answers from Macon-Bibb County Mayor Lester Miller. We want to thank you again, Mr. Mayor, for joining us for this October edition. We're looking forward to seeing you and talking more next month here on 13 WMAZ.